For any of you that have the time to, and I'm sure a part of it would be on YouTube, you need to watch part of the congressional debate from yesterday. Yeah, I knew you'd say that. This is why I love this guy. This is why this guy is our congressman. This is why he has more passion, more compassion, more ability to fight on a floor for what he believes in, and why it is so important to have people like him in the Congress. And I urge you to go find what I'm talking about, because it's not a subject or an issue for today, but my wife and I had, who is also a friend of Sean's, had an opportunity to see this. And it was absolutely a lesson in how to govern, how to be there and want to make your side of an issue felt in the face of opposition, sometimes absurd opposition. My comments, not yours. Keep going?
You're doing great.
All right. How much did we agree to this? Okay, no, I think that it was something worth your time. Go look for it. It was really quite special. And with that, let me turn it over to my friend, your Congressman, Sean Maloney.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Thank you. Are we back on the main mic? Can you hear me? Is this one working? Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Jonathan, and it's always a pleasure to be at Patterns for Progress. He's right that the issue he just kind of teased you with doesn't have a lot to do with infrastructure. But then again, the issue didn't have a lot to do with the defense appropriations bill, but that didn't stop him. So what he's talking about, and I'll do this in 5 minutes, is that, and it's important because you may hear criticism of me over this, so I appreciate the opportunity to tell you what I'm doing. You know, we're one of the things we do down in Congress is we fund our military, and we take that responsibility seriously, you would hope, and that means the efforts against ISIS, that means, you know, what we pay our troops, that means the weapon systems, that means the military construction at West Point and everywhere else. It is a major responsibility. It is an enormous appropriation, a huge amount of your tax dollars, $600 billion annually go to the defense budget now. Just think about that, $600 billion every year, each and every year. $6 trillion over a decade. It's an enormous amount of money, and it's an enormous responsibility. So we're passing this bill, we're supposed to be, and a guy named Steve Russell from Oklahoma decides that he's going to drop into the middle of the bill, in the middle of the night, an anti-gay provision. That's what it is. He wants to roll back an executive order from 2 years ago that said, simply, like race, like religion, if you're doing contracting with the federal government, you can't fire people for being gay. That's it. Now, you know, you can feel any way you want about gay people. You can feel any way you want in your churches or whatever. I don't care. But, you know, this is employment discrimination, right? You shouldn't be able to fire people because they're gay. I hope we all agree on that. And so the president did an executive order on this because a majority of American states still allow people to get fired for being gay. You may not know that. It's not legal in New York, but in, I think, 25 American states, you can be fired. No other reason. You're doing a great job, Fred. Well, we found out you married your longtime partner this weekend, you're fired. No cause of action. Perfectly legal. So the president took it upon himself through executive action, the way has been done previously in other categories, to prohibit that discrimination just with your tax dollars, just with federal dollars. Now, there are 28 million Americans who work in some entity that receives federal funding. So it's a decent section of the American workforce. So Mr. Russell from Oklahoma wanted to roll that back, and they dropped this amendment into the defense bill, and that has there's two problems with that. One, it's wrong. We shouldn't go backwards on civil rights and on employment protection. Secondly, it has no business being in this bill, and it's gonna gum up the works with a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of histrionics and drama when we ought to just be doing our jobs. And I'm not sure which one bothers you more, but they both bother me. You know, it's bad enough you're doing stupid stuff, but you're doing it when we should be doing something important. And so a bunch of us went to work to try to pull it out. And I want to really emphasize this. 30 Republicans were helping do that. So this is not some Democrat-Republican thing. And in the Rules Committee, a guy named Charlie Dent from Pennsylvania and a guy named Richard Hanna, our own from Central New York, tried to simply pull this stupid provision out of this bill. And I went in and testified with him. The Rules Committee has absolute control over what comes to the floor and what's in the bill. And they do that by deciding whether an amendment, in this case, an amendment saying pull that stupid thing out, is germane to the bill, is in order, whether it'll be allowed or not. So, I don't know what can be more germane or in order than saying there's something in the bill and we want to take it out. But they ruled that it was out of order, not germane. Couldn't come to the floor. So on Wednesday night, the whole bill's coming up. Now, I have never voted against a defense bill in my life, and I never thought I would. My dad nearly died in the military, serving his country. I take this stuff very seriously. And I said to myself, I can't vote for this. I'm not going to go home and look my kids in the eye and tell them it's okay to discriminate against families like ours. I'm not going to do it. And you all are going to hear several $1 million of advertising later this year saying I voted against the troops. I guarantee it. You're going to see some mom sit in a chair saying, my kid's in Iraq and Sean Maloney voted to take away his pay. Said he didn't want to support the war against ISIS. So we shouldn't provide missile defense for the state of Israel. Whatever the hell's in that bill. I did it because I voted against it. But I'm not going to vote against something that goes to something so basic as my own civil rights. And if that's a problem for the people who elected me, then you're going to have a new congressperson in January. It's just that simple. There's some things that are more important to me than this job. And one of them is standing for something. And in a defense budget that funds our military, I hope we're also concerned about whether we're promoting our values. I hope what we're fighting for ultimately is our freedom and our values. And we lead the world with our ideas, not just our weapons. And so I voted against it. And I didn't just vote against it, I spoke about it on the House floor in what's called a motion to recommit, which is a procedural thing which would have allowed at the last minute us to pull this out. But they don't vote for those things as a matter of course, so there was really no chance that it would work. But here's the last part of the story. So I just told you, we lost at the Rules Committee. I lost on the House floor on Wednesday night. Thursday morning, I'm walking into work, and we found out that the military construction appropriations bill, which is sort of the complement to the first bill, and the Veterans Administration bill, the VA bill, is an open amendment process. In other words, the Rules Committee doesn't get to say what amendments are allowed. This was the mistake they made. But remember, Paul Ryan has promised this, that members will be able to bring their good ideas and make amendments, and we'll kick stuff around, and we'll let the House work its will. It's an open rule. So I ran to the House floor. We literally wrote this thing on the back of a napkin, had a quick argument with the parliamentarian about whether it was in order or not. He said it is. And I stood up, made the amendment, and I looked across the way, and the floor manager for the other side is my friend Charlie Dent from Pennsylvania. He says, I support the gentleman's amendment. Republican, good guy, good guy. Have a voice vote, chair rules against us, of course, but I can call for a recorded vote. 15 minutes later, we're on the full bill, the whole House fills up, 435 members, gallery's packed. Mine's the last amendment before passage of this massive appropriations bill. Charlie says, I think we're gonna win this. There's easily 30 guys on my side that are gonna support it. We were running around, we're lobbying people, we're asking their support. They're all saying, oh yeah, we're with you, absolutely, we're with you. And a bunch of people from New York, by the way. John Katko, Republican from Syracuse. Lee Stefanik from the North Country. Richard Hanna was one of the real movers on this. They call the vote. 213 is the magic number, majority of members present that day. We go to 218. We win the vote. Win the vote. Win the vote. And that's what we started to do. We're clapping and hooting and hollering. I'm high-fiving. People are taking pictures of me. I got a picture of the thing. It says Maloney Amendment. 217, at that point it was 217. 217 to whatever the hell it was, 8 seconds left, we win. Good guys win. Great story, right? That's not the end of the story. It's not the end of the story. It's a 2-minute vote. Time expires. But the gavel doesn't come down. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Now we start yelling. Regular order. What are we doing? Come on. We won. Blah, blah, blah. Now Kevin McCarthy comes running on the floor, the Republican majority leader, and he goes to work. And then it goes to 216. And then it goes to 215. And we start yelling and shouting. And now people are getting hot. And then it goes to 214. And I go over to Kevin McCarthy, because he's just talked to Charlie Dent, who's been running this thing. And I said, Charlie, what did he say to you? And he said, I got to change my vote. And I said, what'd you say, Charlie? He said, I told him to get lost. Charlie Dent, good man, right? So then I go to Kevin McCarthy, because I'm a little new and a little impertinent. He's the majority leader for the U.S. House of Representatives. And I said, Kevin, what are you doing? I may have said, Mr. Leader, what are you doing? You know, you don't need to do this. You know, 30 of your own guys just voted for this thing, right? You don't need to do this. You can let it go. It's going to be okay. And he looked at me and he said, and he was mad. He looked at me and he said, get back on your own side of the aisle. And I said to him, tell me what side of the aisle I'm supposed to stand on to support equality. Why is it one side of the aisle or the other? 30 Republicans agree with me on this. We just won a vote on the House floor. We won the vote, right? You know, it's not me saying it. It's not the Democrats saying it. It's your own guys. And he just waved me off. And then he broke a couple more bones and twisted a couple more arms and went to 212. And the second it went to 212, he yelled to the guy on the rostrum, and that gavel came down, and we lost. That's how your House of Representatives is being run right now. So I think you should know that. And I hope you remember it when you understand the nonsense they're going to throw at me later this year. It's the hardest political vote that I've ever taken, and I do it every day for the rest of my time in Congress. I think it's my best day in Congress. I'm proud of that vote. But let's talk about infrastructure.